Hey everyone, welcome back to the Maverick channel. Now on this channel we try to talk about real world use cases of cryptocurrencies and what crypto companies, what cryptocurrency concepts and what's happening out there in the cryptocurrency world, things that are actually affecting the world in a real way because as a result of blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. So now whether it's ideas or projects or ideas that have been put on paper or ideas that have actually been put out there in the field, or ideas that are just resonating around in this whole space, it's very important to look at all the aspects and what different people's point of views are as regards to cryptocurrencies and how it's going to redefine the whole financial structure. So now what I've learned with cryptocurrencies is that it sort of induces a cognitive dissonance, which causes some sort of mass hysteria when it comes to things like governments, which is understandable because that panicky sort of attitude, it's because you're dealing with something that's extremely new. You're dealing with something that keeps growing and growing, ever much bigger and much stronger every day. Not necessarily in a negative sense, but in a, well, both, because there could be both sides to everything, but the hope is always that the positive side of things, at least the generally perceived positive side of things, supersedes the so-called negative sentiment. So essentially when you're trying to navigate something, a financial structure like this, which essentially predates money, is one of the first technologies ever discovered by man. So when you discover something that's going to revolutionize the essence of money, something that's considered an item or a belief. Money is known to be a belief system. Value is what someone else is willing to pay for it. Now if you notice something that's going to revolutionize the whole idea of money, or that the way we've perceived money from the past, money has always been affiliated with scarcity. And of course, as we realized from 1971 in the United States, when Richard Nixon declared that the US dollar would be detached from being backed by gold, that essentially led to this wave of money printing, which is known as quantitative easing that we see today, where there's an infinite supply of fiat currency. So that infinite supply of fiat currency, of course, leads to a slowly increasing rate of diminish or inflation in the distribution of the fiat money itself. But at the same time, it makes governments manage the whole money, the value of the money itself. It's managed through different fiscal and monetary policies. Now we have a decentralized system which started with Bitcoin, which is essentially a monetary system that's meant to be on the internet, which is the money on the internet. But when you dig deeper into Bitcoin, you understand that the actual essence of Bitcoin is to be the internet of money, not just the money of internet. Because on top of Bitcoin or on top of other cryptocurrencies, there's already an underlying, since money is ideally the thing that makes the world go round. So you have an internet of money. So you have money being the base layer of what is going on, of this new economy, of this new digital economy. And on top of that layer of money, you build onto other services. So when you're a government or an individual and you're dealing with something this new, it depends on what you're doing and what you're going through at that particular point to appreciate what it has to do. So as I've been talking on this page, there's Fetch.AI. I hadn't actually realized which tab I'd opened up. I'd hoped to maybe have a Bitcoin tab open up. If I open this tab, but I'm going to talk about Fetch.AI, which is one of my favorite. Actually, before we go into there, to cut into the conversation, is that things like Fetch.AI, I truly believe that we're going to have a multitude of cryptocurrencies out there. It's not just going to be Bitcoin, it's not just going to be Ethereum, because literally by the nature of this decentralization, something that's decentralized and open source, it means any community of people or machines can create their own currency to trade with themselves. So people can, it could be a small gamers community that can create their own currency themselves. They create a decentralized exchange. Maybe that ecosystem, that community garners so much interest from the external world, from the external communities, and then those people help that community to grow by building, say, decentralized exchanges such that the items within those games in those small communities can then be traded on other exchanges outside of their small community. And maybe if it's a decentralized exchange, people can add liquidity on those different items that essentially started from the small community, and that keeps growing. So that can be a pocket of itself within decentralized finance, within the cryptocurrency space, or within basically some of the features of a distributed ledger system and how it can be used by different people. So the reason why I'm saying all this is that if you look at something like Fetch.AI, it's not to shield this, but it's to give an example of why I'm talking about this. This is a cryptocurrency just like any other old coin out there that anyone might be interested in. It's the fascinating thing about this, and why I'm using it as an example, apart from the fact that I talk about them a lot on this channel, is that they are infusing distributed ledger technologies with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the idea, there's other projects like Ocean Protocol, Singularity Net, the one behind the robot Sophia. So the fascinating thing about Fetch.AI is that they're really tackling something called multi-agent systems and agent-based autonomous economic agents that govern, or that are the underlying layer of the economy of things. So imagine the economy of things actually on top of the economy of things. So imagine building a blockchain system that's going to connect to other blockchain systems that's going to contribute to the development of the idea of Internet of Things or economies of things. Then on top of that system, you have these autonomous agents that are residing within a dynamic environment and can make decisions autonomously and by the influence of their owner's influence, and also slightly the influence of other agents that are residing within that environment. So some of the product suites that can be built of such technology is, say, something that this particular company is building, which is known as collective learning. So with collective learning, you can utilize machine learning and artificial intelligence, especially running machine learning algorithms and training weights, and the whole process, neural networks running, hidden layers, neural networks running within there. It's always the idea of an input and a desired output, given that the parameters have been tuned to the right parameters, you've used the right functions, and you've used the right algorithm for what you're trying to do. So for example, if you're using image recognition, maybe using convolutional neural networks. If you're trying to generate art using machine learning, maybe you could use generative adversarial networks, and depending on any other method, or you could use OpenCV. So essentially these agents, you can embed any type of programming within there, and the company has gone ahead to create their own programming language, which is called Etch, that supports complex mathematical calculations. And then they're also trying to go into other things like liquid farming, so where you have your tokens staked, but you can still have value placed on them. Anyway, I don't want to go into all those details. The point is, you have independent companies that are building solutions that are going to bring about actual change into this world, and maybe emerge as very influential, very important aspects of our communities, and redefine the way humans live their lives. So that's why I believe there's going to be so many cryptocurrencies out there, because of the diversity in the human mindset and different societies, different needs from people, and the different use cases depending on what is going on, whether it's supply chain, whether it's automotive, whether it's the gaming industry, whether it's a newfound virtual thing, whether it's things that we've not even thought of up to today. That's the reason why there's going to be plenty, or a lot, of digital currencies out there, each serving its own purpose, but hopefully maintaining that original idea of decentralization, immutability, security, and hopefully, if you can't make scalability, then there's tools out there that can help you create that scalability. So slowly going to this map, I just wanted to look at this geography of this map. I don't know when it was done, but it seems to show the geography of the distribution of the legality of the usage of cryptocurrencies, and I guess Bitcoin. So you can see in the Americas, South America, and a bit of Asia. Of course, these maps are very subjective, because if you go deep into some of these countries that haven't been marked, maybe the laws are a bit lean on what is going on with cryptocurrencies, but you don't really have a lot of information from those countries. So this is just take it on face value, and with a grain of salt as well. So the ultimate point being is, if you see such headlines like Turkey's crypto bill ready for parliament, says deputy. So essentially, the way we look at cryptocurrencies, and okay, we can look at these other things. Grayscale 100% committed to turning GBTC, which is the Grayscale Bitcoin traded fund, or Grayscale BTC. So essentially, it's the closest thing you can get to an ETF in the United States, which is exchange traded fund. So the purpose of an ETF is essentially, if Bitcoin was to be transferred into an ETF, essentially you can trade it on an exchange like the way you trade any other stock on that given exchange. So in a stock exchange, you can trade Bitcoin. But the point is, no matter what news you see with what countries are doing, if you look at when the internet started back in the 90s, and asking someone that, judging the success or determining the future success of the internet through what companies, by using the metric of what companies have adopted it and what companies are going to adopt it. Is this company going to use this? Is this company going to use this? It becomes very redundant because when it comes to cryptocurrencies, we understand that it's something that's already out there. It has already disseminated into the world. So what companies or what countries adopt it, I don't think it makes much sense, because individuals can create their own pockets of their own decentralized finance in this ecosystem. So I think knowing the right questions to ask could be very important, especially in this case for countries and companies. The original point I wanted to make is that they understand there is competition out here, and the companies or countries or individuals that are going to be the leaders in this space are going to have a very huge financial share of the financial ecosystem as it's going to grow, especially if it's an underlying layer on the internet. There's going to be way too much economic activity going on, especially when it's disenfranchising other maybe smaller online shops out there as they get more independence, detached from the governing body of other online shops out there. So you have more independent parties transacting on the internet independently, because they're allowed to do that. They can do that because of the power of decentralization and open source technology. So asking whether a country or a company is going to adopt cryptocurrencies and open source technology is a bit redundant, because it's in their best interest to do this, because this is continuously going to grow, and it's continuously going to grow, because we know, based on the projected scale of the global economy and the rate at which it's increasing, it's been slow a bit because of what's going on right now, but generally the projected increase in productivity on this globe, and different sectors that are going to develop into very financially massive sectors like the gaming industry, the virtual reality industry. This is going to drive a tremendous amount of capital and a tremendous amount of demand and use base. So decentralizing different organizations so that they tap into their own financial systems the way they would like to, or the way they would prefer, I think it's going to be game changing when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So it's not about what countries or what people adopt it. It's about, I think, the question of what are these people or countries doing to fit into this, to be ahead of this race, to be at the top of this race, and to allow it to help us work together so that it matures into something that we all know and love, and not something that will be negative for the human race. So of course there's news like Jack Dorsey continuously driving the whole idea of Bitcoin and building a decentralized finance layer, or I guess on top of the Bitcoin network, or at least embedding that with Square or somehow. I don't know what plans he has for Bitcoin and embedding it into his business model, but Jack Dorsey is very bullish on the whole Bitcoin network. Of course, here we can see Treasury Secretary Yellen urges lawmakers to quickly introduce stablecoin guidelines. So those that do not know, stablecoins are essentially a way to hedge your losses in the cryptocurrency space. So these are coins they're supposed to be backed by whatever currency it is, maybe backed by the US dollar, backed by the Korean currency, or the Chinese yuan, or depending whatever country it is, and you create a stablecoin for that country. So essentially, if you're trading cryptos, you can trade them into that stablecoin to protect yourself from the volatility, whether going up or down. So different governments are trying to find out how to deal with that, because you have this currency that's mimicking the actual currency of that country, but there is no way to stop it. It's decentralized and it's accessible to anyone. So anyone in the world can keep their money in a different currency, whatever currency they need. And lastly, yeah, of course, here we can see majority of institutional investors ready to buy digital assets. Assets study says, of course, this makes sense. I'm sure, as I've done so many videos, I've spoken about the fact that there's so many venture capitalists and so much money flowing into the digital currency space because ideally, simply speaking, everyone knows where this space is going. So that's not a secret. I guess it makes sense that the wealthy out there are looking out for ways to strategize themselves, or at least even the people that don't consider themselves among the wealthy. They're trying to look out for assets that they can purchase that are probably actual scarce assets. The true scarce asset that has been introduced in our new world today is the digital asset, because it can be monitored, its supply can be monitored, its activity can be monitored by anyone in the world that sets up the right equipment to run a full node to govern, to oversee what's happening and to help to validate that particular network. As long as you've downloaded its open source data and running it on your computer, anyone can do that. So that's one of the beauties of Bitcoin. Not to mention the fact that you can actually store the mnemonic seed phrases that back up your Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies and just store them in your head, get to any other country in the world with nothing and buy a cheap smartphone, type in those words, and you have your crypto waiting for you. So there's so many magical things that happen with cryptocurrencies. So knowing the right questions to ask in how it's going to evolve as far as the future finance is concerned, when you mix the physical world with the virtual world and the internet, knowing the right questions to ask is always the best. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about Polygon. Polygon launches blockchain gaming NFC studio. So we know Polygon is one of those cryptocurrencies I think everyone has to keep an eye on, because it seems to be the one that has been picked as the favorite when it comes to any other currency trying to do something with the Ethereum network. It seems Polygon is the one that has been picked. This is formerly known as Matic. So this is one crypto I think that is worth keeping an eye on if you're out there. So guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today in today's video. I hope I didn't move around a lot, and I hope you could hear me. I don't think I was audible enough, but I hope I managed to put across some kind of message that would maybe resonate with you the same way it resonates with me. All right guys, that's all for today. Have a good one. Bye bye.